Construction began on the edge of Arlington farmland. A low, swampy stretch of land near the Potomac River. At first glance, it looked completely unsuitable. Soft ground, standing water, unstable soil that shifted under weight. Engineers warned it would slow everything down. But the order from Washington was clear. There was no time to find a better site. Within days, bulldozers arrived. The marsh was pushed aside like it didn't matter. Thousands of workers followed: carpenters, steel workers, truck drivers. Most of them had never seen a project move this fast. The design kept changing even as foundations were being poured. One section would be approved in the morning and redesigned by evening. Concrete trucks lined up day and night. There were moments when the site looked more like a machine than a building project. But underneath the speed, problems were forming. The ground kept shifting in unexpected ways. Steel frames didn't always align perfectly, and certain areas had to be rebuilt twice before they even dried. One engineer noted something unusual in his reports. The soil wasn't just unstable, it seemed to settle differently depending on where they built, as if the ground had hidden layers no survey had fully captured. But the work continued without pause. Then came the first real disruption. A shipment of critical steel beams went missing for several hours. No record of theft, no record of delay. Just gone. When they finally arrived, the markings on the crates had been altered. Re-stamped. Re-documented. As if they had passed through a system no one was tracking properly. That same night, workers near the southern foundation reported something else. Heavy machinery had been moved slightly out of position. Not damaged. Just shifted. A few feet off from where it was left. No explanation. No witnesses. Only the growing feeling that the project was moving faster than anyone could fully control. And beneath the noise of construction, something about the site itself was beginning to feel wrong. Then the engineers received a new instruction from Washington. A change so large, it would double the scale of the entire structure overnight. That new instruction changed everything overnight. The design wasn't just expanding. It was being restructured. Entire sections were redrawn on paper and sent back within hours. Engineers barely had time to understand one version before the next arrived. And the scale kept increasing. What was once a single headquarters building was now becoming a massive interconnected complex. Tunnels, corridors, multiple rings of structure. Work zones multiplied across the site like a spreading grid. But the strange part wasn't just the size. It was the coordination. Everything seemed to move with unnatural precision for something so rushed. One engineer later described it as too smooth to be chaotic. Still, the ground problems worsened. Certain foundations refused to stabilize. Concrete would set unevenly in specific sectors. As if the soil density changed from one yard to the next. Then came the first major accident. A section of scaffolding collapsed during a late-night shift. No fatalities. But 3 workers were injured badly enough to be removed from the site. Official reports blamed equipment fatigue, but those on the ground weren't convinced. One worker later said he saw something moments before the collapse. A vibration. Not from machinery. From beneath the soil. Like something shifting deep underground. The report was dismissed. Work continued. But tension spread through the crews. Then a second twist arrived. A shipment of technical blueprints was delivered with entire pages missing. Not torn. Not damaged. Just absent. As if they had never been printed at all. When replacements were requested, Washington responded quickly. Too quickly. New plans arrived within hours. But they included structural elements that had never been part of the original design. Engineers began quietly comparing notes. And that's when they realized something unsettling. Different teams were receiving slightly different versions of the same project. Small changes. But enough to create confusion across the entire construction effort. No one knew which version was final anymore. And deep inside the expanding structure, something was now being built without a single unified blueprint guiding it. Then, late one night, a security officer reported movement in a restricted zone that should have been completely sealed. The security officer didn't report it immediately. He thought it was a mistake. A false alarm in the system. But the readings kept repeating, motion inside a sealed zone. Deep within the unfinished lower structure, NO authorized entry was recorded. NO access logs showed a breach. Still, the sensors insisted something was moving there. When a small inspection team was finally sent in, they found nothing at first. Just empty corridors, fresh concrete, and the steady hum of ventilation systems not fully installed yet. But then one of the men stopped walking. He noticed something on the wall. Scratches. Not from tools. Not from machinery. Something sharper. Like repeated contact over time. The marks weren't new, but they also shouldn't have existed at this stage of construction. The team called it an and for the first time, supervisors ordered a full sweep of the area. That decision triggered something no one expected. Within hours, access to that entire lower section was restricted. No explanation was given. Only a sudden shutdown of internal movement permits. Workers outside the zone were told to continue as normal. But word spread quickly. Something had been found. Something they weren't being told about. Then came the second twist. A junior engineer, reviewing archived soil surveys, noticed something buried in old reports. Pre-construction mapping data had been quietly replaced. Not once, but multiple times over the course of months. Each revision slightly different. Each one erasing small inconsistencies. Almost like someone was smoothing over irregularities in the ground itself. When he tried to escalate the issue, his access was revoked within hours. No warning. No meeting. Just removed from the project entirely. And reassigned without explanation. That night, he spoke to a colleague off record. And what he said raised a far more disturbing question. If the design kept changing, if the ground data kept being rewritten, then who was actually controlling the final structure? And more importantly, what was being built in the sections no one was allowed to enter anymore? Before anyone could answer, the power grid in the lower construction zone went completely offline. The blackout didn't behave like a normal failure. It was too clean, too controlled. Entire sections of the lower structure went dark at once, while surrounding areas stayed fully powered. No cascading failure. No warning signals. Just silence inside the system. Engineers rushed to stabilize the grid, but every manual override failed instantly. It was as if the shutdown had been anticipated and locked in place.